Hello, everybody. Welcome to part two of CBD Basics, what you need to know. I'm going to allow a few more minutes. I'm on a little bit early. I just want to make sure everybody gets on okay. And Dr. Blume as well. So we'll give everybody just a couple more minutes here to get on. Because we have a lot to talk about. Hello, Dr. Blume. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
There you are.
Yep. Very good. Every webinar system works a little bit differently. So
Yep, exactly. It's always fun to figure out the technology and hope you don't get any feedback or any weird things like that. So
I completely agree. Yep.
yeah.
Completely agree.
We'll give people just a couple more minutes to get on here. I know we're on just a minute early. I want to make sure that I got on and that you got on. So,
yep. So if nothing else, we're here. This is
yes,
good.
exactly. So we had a good turnout last evening for the first part of this webinar, and so that was really nice.
I saw that.
Yeah, so
I was putting my daughter to bed because I'm in a different time zone, but I hopped on. I probably just missed the live, but hopped on afterwards. So
yeah,
great content. Yeah, I'm sure it was incredibly helpful for whoever was listening.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a timely subject matter. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were asking about it and stuff. And I see we do have somebody else popping on here. So if you guys, as you pop on, if you could just say hello, I want to make sure everybody can hear us okay before we get started. And I'm real excited to have everybody with us. And I know there are some that are not able to attend live, so they'll be watching the replay. We do have a lot to share with you, and that replay will be coming out. You did have a link to that when you signed up for the webinar, and I will also send out another message. Hi, Lisa. Hello. Great. I'm glad you can hear me and stuff. So I'm really excited to bring Dr. Staci Blume on today. She's got a very busy life and a packed schedule. And I appreciate her taking time out of that schedule to join us. And I do want to start by introducing her. So we'll get started with that. And Dr. Staci Blume, I'm just going to let you know her background. She began her career in 2008 after graduating from Northwestern Health Sciences University. Through the years, she has gained unparalleled experience, not only in her professional field, but at owning and growing a business, training teams, and coaching other health care providers and creating systems that can help a business run most efficiently, which that's what we all need. And during this time, she also has became a respected speaker, has given hundreds of lectures to both professionals and clients alike, and presented on neuroplasticity, extraordinary health potential at a TEDx talk in 2015. So this is really exciting. We have her here with us. And most recently, she's been asked to speak on topics of stress, children's health, nutrition, and on our topic today, CBD. No matter the topic, her message always builds off the premise that the brain and the body are intricately connected. And when we care for both properly, we have the opportunity to lead an extraordinary life. She currently owns Life Refined Chiropractic in Noblesville, Indiana, along with her husband and chiropractor, Nate. And she runs a women's networking group, owns multiple small businesses, and trains other business professionals on systems of automation and efficiency. I'm getting worn out just
I was going to say,
yeah. And she's the mother of two fabulous stepsons, Trent and Drake, and mom to the couple's 2-year-old daughter, Mila. And for more information on Dr. Blume and some free resources, I put up her website there, everydayrefine.com. So Dr. Blume, thank you for joining us Okay.
Listening to that, I'm like, who wrote that? Because I had a friend write it. It's so hard to write those about yourself. So anyway, yeah, thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for joining us. I have a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
And probably the first thing that we should kind of start off with is just tell us a bit about your story and why you delved into the world of CBD, because I think it's like my story. We had a lot of patients asking us about it, and also what you discovered when you were delving into all that research, because what you had told me really was an eye opener and really pretty shocking as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Well, for years I've had patients asking, what do you think about CBD? Should I try it? How should I use it? And I'm the type of healthcare provider that if I wouldn't try it myself, I'm not going to recommend it to anybody else. So I practice what I preach through and through. And I got really tired of giving the answer, I don't know, because then they were going to another resource who may or may not be educated on the topic. And so when I was transitioning practices, I sold my chiropractic office in my home state of North Dakota, moved to Indiana, and started a brand new practice with my husband. And so in that time, I had a little bit more flexibility with my schedule and just carved out some time to do my own research, because I didn't want to cloud myself with research coming from a company or a product. I just wanted to see what basic CBD information was out there, whether it be PubMed or case studies or whatever it might be, but what is the raw data? And so I took about 6 months to really cruise through the information, because once I got through the first layer of basics, then I had more questions. I needed to know, okay, but why, or but how? And so finally just kept going through that research process until I'd satisfied myself with, yeah, this is a really legitimate product that we should be learning more about. This is very likely to be beneficial to our physiology. And if that's the case, how do we make sure we're taking an excellent quality product and that we're taking it correctly? Because all of those things factor in. It's not just, you can't have just one piece of the puzzle. It needs to fit the bill for the whole thing. So I finally got to the point where I was not just okay with, but really excited about finding a product. And finally ended up finding the company that we're both representing, because it's organic, it's farm to table, it's pesticide. I mean, like the certificate of analysis on the quality of our product is beautiful, and no other company has that. I'm the same way with any nutritional supplement I take, is I want it to be the best, or I wouldn't take it and I wouldn't offer it to my clients. And so finally just needing to answer the question personally so that I could honestly give my clients a real opinion and not the I don't know type of answer. A lot of things that I learned through that process is certainly not all CBD is created equal. Don't buy it at the gas station. Don't buy it at the tanning salon. There are some you would think common sense things, yet I have people bring in bottles of all sorts of things that some of them are CBD and some of them are not, that they think they purchased CBD. And so I needed to be able to discern the difference, to be able to tell them, here's why this product is more likely to be beneficial for you. Here's why you don't want to put this product in your system. And so it just took a lot of time for me to be very clear on that. And I get a little bit nerdy about most things I do. And so I've got spreadsheets comparing different products, and I've put together documents to help people know how to take the product. And mainly it was just satisfy my own confidence in answering questions that I knew would continue to come my way, because while CBD is a hot topic right now, I think it's really just getting started.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the research is still ongoing, though there's been a lot of anecdotal stuff. There's been some research, which we talked about in part one of this webinar, but we still have a lot to learn. And I think one thing that struck me with you when I talked to you initially was how you did kind of get nerdy and geek out on this, and you had really delved into a lot of these companies and what some of the differences were behind them, and how really to meet your standards of several of the things that we talked about, quality wise, that there was always something that was missing from a lot of these companies. And a lot of these companies are really well known companies at this point, in the industry. And some of them I had heard that were good, that I heard were good, but I hadn't really delved into it yet until our paths crossed, and what you shared with me was pretty astounding. Could you kind of talk about what some of the differences, without naming names and stuff on
Sure.
companies, but what some of the differences you were finding on some of these companies that can help people when they're looking at products, how to discern it, because it's really confusing. It's really muddy as far as, when I've gone to sites, I'm thinking, oh, they're the best, the greatest, they're the only one that does this or that. And you find
Yeah.
out it's not the case.
Yeah. So, I guess step one is I've had people come in and say, oh, I bought this CBD oil on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't. You bought hemp oil. So I think that's one of the biggest, like, even just generally confusing things is CBD, yes, comes from the hemp plant. But CBD oil and hemp oil are very different things. And it's not legal to buy or sell CBD on Amazon. So if you bought something on Amazon, it's not actually CBD. So that's like kind of step one. Step two is, how did they make it? What is the health of the plant that they extracted the cannabinoids from? We know, and part of my frustration at the beginning was I wanted to find a product from a company I already trusted. And so I use a couple of nutritional supplement companies that I love. And when I looked into their CBD products, they had quickly acquired a CBD, slapped their label on it, and it was no different than the rest.
Yeah.
And so I was really disappointed in that, quite honestly, which is what led me to, okay, I need to find a CBD company, not somebody who does it all. And so a lot of it is, what is the health of the plant? We know that 80% of the hemp that we use in the United States comes from China. That's not, yeah. So we're already, made in China. Okay, I'm not so sure. Well, they use the hemp plant in China. They plant it because the hemp plant is really good at pulling toxins out of the soil. So they would plant the hemp, harvest it, sell it to who would ever want to buy it, and then they plant their healthy crop in the cleaner soil that was left behind. Well, a lot of products, even that we purchase here in the US, it'll say on the label, made in the USA. Well, yes, it was bottled here after the hemp plant was shipped over from China. So that excludes a great number of what they call white label companies, because what you can do, what white label means, and it's not just with CBD, it's with anything. You go to this company who makes a product, you take it, put your own label on it, and it's exactly the same as everybody else's. That's a problem. And one of the easiest ways we can find out, has that happened? What is our product like? Is any reputable company is going to have a certificate of analysis for their product. You should be able to see from a third-party testing agency, how clean was the hemp? Did they find any pesticides? Did they find any heavy metals? Is there actually CBD in this hemp plant? Because hemp plant has lots of different varieties. And if so, how much CBD? Because we need to have an adequate amount for it to have a health benefit for us. And so I think an easy way for anyone to screen a company is, can I see your certificate of analysis? And is it an up-to-date certificate of analysis for that bottle? Not just, oh, yep, here was our testing that was done 5 years ago when our company launched. I want to know what it looks like right now. And so if a company can't produce that certificate of analysis, personally, I wouldn't even consider putting it in my body if I don't know what it is exactly that I'm consuming. So that's an easy first start. The other thing we know about CBD is that we need it to absorb into our fat cells. And so there are some companies who will claim water soluble, which sounds amazing, right? On the surface, we're like, oh, that's a really good idea because we're mostly made of water. But it doesn't necessarily get to the places in our system that will utilize that CBD. And so you want it to be in a carrier oil that's high in fat. Hemp oil sounds like the most logical choice. Oh, it comes from the hemp plant. Let's put it in its own oil. But usually the oil from the hemp plant comes from the leftover parts. So we get our CBD especially from the company that I prefer, out of the flower. That's the healthiest part of the plant, the most live, the cleanest. And then the leftover parts, like the stems and the stalks and the seeds of the plant, can be used for other things. Hemp, for example, is used a lot in the textile industry. But we don't want to grind up those leftover parts and put it in our bottle with our CBD. It's just not the easiest or cleanest way to get it into our system. So another thing a person could look for when selecting a product is a really high fat content with that's going to be clean. So MCT oil from organic coconuts is what we choose to use, simply because the percentage of fat content is really high, which means it's highly absorbable and it's really clean. The nice thing when you look at our product compared to other products out there is how you can see right through it. You can tell that there aren't any contaminants or leftover parts ground up into that oil. So a high quality MCT oil is a good thing to look for. That certificate of analysis is really important. And those are kind of the two big surface level things I think a person can more easily look for. There are certainly other factors, but at the surface level, that's going to rule in and quite frankly rule out most products.
Yeah, and one thing else along that line that I've been trying to get a little clarification on is I know with Green Compass, they use the flowering part of the plant where the highest concentration of phytocannabinoids are, and that bears out. And then you have others arguing that you use the whole plant, and that's where you kind of come down to using the stalks and the stems and all of that. Where to me, you're not getting maybe as pure of a product where the highest concentration of beneficial components are. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, and there's a level of kind of a layer of confusion with whole plant as well.
Yeah.
Because whole plant can mean, yes, I use the flower and the stems and the stalks and the seed, or whole plant can mean full spectrum. For example, whatever was in just the flower, the healthy part, they extracted and left everything intact when they got it into the concentrated form in the bottle. And so whole plant has different meanings as well. It really depends too, because hemp oil is not a bad choice. It's just not the best choice. And so it depends too just on the quality of that hemp and where it was grown and how it was processed. You know, how the CBD or how the phytocannabinoids are extracted from the plant into the oil format also makes a difference, because a solvent needs to be used of some sort. And a lot of companies use a chemical solvent at high heat because it's fast and it's inexpensive. Well, our company won't take any shortcuts. They use subcritical CO2 extraction, which is the cleanest method of getting the phytocannabinoids from the plant into the oil extract. So that's kind of the deeper level layer stuff of what I know to look for when the surface level stuff seems okay. Okay, now what's the next level? How can I look deeper? So that whole plant, when I hear it, for whatever reason now, it makes me think of, did they remove a part of the plant and then make my CBD? For example, an isolate, like a THC free, not whole plant, not whole flower, because they've removed a portion of it. It's kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to eat carrots, but the carrots that I'm eating have had a particular nutrient. You know, is it still a carrot? It's hard to say. Now, there are some reasons why a person might use a THC or non-whole plant CBD oil, and we can talk about those, you know, health differentials as well. But whole plant in general would mean everything that was in the plant as it was growing has remained intact in the oil format.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful, because I know I've had some confusion about it as well. And
I did too at the beginning, you bet. I think most people do. In fact, there's a lot of people who will represent a CBD company that don't, I mean, our level of understanding of CBD is far beyond most. And I think that's another reason it was so important for me to do the research, because if a patient is not getting their information from me, they're going to get it somewhere. And I wanted to make sure that it wasn't bad information. And unfortunately, because even with our level of understanding of, I mean, most people don't know an endocannabinoid system exists, right? So our level of knowledge is far beyond most. And there are even still levels that are confusing to me that I have to go back and re-research because the general education terminology does get definitely confusing.
Yeah, it does get confusing. And that thing that, when looking at some companies, like just yesterday, somebody asked me to look at a company, and learning what I learned from you, I could start to look at that label and thinking, it said it had natural flavoring in it, which, okay, what does that mean?
Nope. Yep.
And the carrier oil was hemp. So my understanding is, of course, the bioavailability, how well that's going to be absorbed, is not going to be probably as efficient. And you may need more of the product to get the desired effect versus if you're using a higher quality carrier like the MCT oil.
100%. And that stands from a scientific perspective, but also from a clinical perspective for me. I did not try other products before I selected one. This is why I did the research, because I wanted to start with the best. But I've had a lot of clients in my office transition from a different CBD oil to this one. And that's been their personal experience as well, that, oh my goodness, I feel like I get more benefit from it. And I feel like I get more benefit taking less. And that's fantastic. It means that our product is more effective, even at a lower dosage, which is beneficial from so many stances. You don't, like, in the American way of everything, it seems like more is always better. And that's not the case. Like, you want to take what your body needs, nothing more and nothing less. And so to be able for them, to take a better quality and less product, it's better for them from a nutrition perspective, from a metabolism perspective, from an energy reserve perspective, but financial perspective too, which I don't overlook, because when it comes to our health is an investment.
Right. And, I think when you're looking at those CBD products and you're thinking, well, this one's maybe a lot cheaper, but then you start looking at the ingredients, and if they're having to take more of that and they're not getting as high a quality, they would be better off, making that little extra investment in that. But even when you look at different companies, they could be similarly priced, but one of them's superior to the other. And that's one of the things I found with this company yesterday in comparing it to Green Compass. There were definitely differences, but they were similarly priced. And so you want to get the best quality that you can for the investment that you're making. And I would like to hear, what has your experience been personally and also with your patients that have been utilizing CBD? What have their experiences been with it?
So I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, I realized that there were health. In the office, I compare it to an omega-3. Like, when I recommend an omega-3, it's because it's an essential nutrient. It's important to have in your system for proper function. But just because you're taking it doesn't mean you're going to feel it. It's not like you're like, oh, I took my omega-3 today and I feel so much better. Maybe, but it doesn't really work that way. CBD is the same. Like, we have this endocannabinoid system that will respond to CBD. And so when I got started, I didn't really have high expectations, because I feel good most of the time. My energy is good. I sleep well. I do all the things I actually tell my patients to do. But when I started taking it, it took about 2 months. So 2 bottles worth, because you have to figure out what the right dosage is for you. So it took about 2 months before I started to notice a difference, but it was kind of like overnight, one night. I kind of finally tipped the scales, and I realized, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm sleeping so much deeper. Now that's saying a lot for me, because I have a 2-year-old in my bed. So for me to have a 2-year-old in my bed and feel like I'm actually getting quality sleep, like I'm waking feeling more energized, that was enough for me. I was like, if that's all it does, this is fabulous. But the other 2 things I personally noticed, just a lot more ability to focus and concentrate and get things done. You kind of gave my bio, and I'm doing a lot of different things. I like doing a lot of different things. The variety is nice, but some days I feel like I've got 12 things on my desk and I take one step forward in all of them, but never start and finish something. And I eventually get around to it, but it wasn't in an efficient way. And I found that, oh my goodness, I can focus so much more and my phone dinging and my computer blipping, and I know that somebody's going to be knocking at my door, I could tune that out and just start and finish a project more easily. So for productivity purposes, for me, that was huge. And I go to the gym 3 times a week. I love to be active with my family. I don't really have musculoskeletal complaints, but once that scale kind of tipped, I noticed that when I was going up the stairs carrying my daughter at home, that my knees didn't bug me. Now, I didn't realize that they had been before. Like, it wasn't something I would have brought up or complained about, but I noticed when it went away. And one of the things I tell people when they start care in my office is the most common thing I hear from people is, I'd forgotten what good felt like. And whether that be chiropractic care or the services you're providing or nutrition changes, we all kind of get stuck in our own rut and think that whatever we've got is as good as it gets. And so it was really a nice surprise that my knees didn't hurt, even though it was something I'd just gotten used to and thought was normal, that was obviously not meant to be there. So simple stuff like that. For patients, anxiety is a huge one. People experience a lot of stress in their lives. And unfortunately, our country is one that jumps to medication first. What I have seen for a lot of my patients, while I'm not a medical doctor and I don't guide them in medication decisions whatsoever, I have heard from a lot of my patients that after starting using a CBD product, they felt so much more balanced, like stressors didn't affect them in the same way, that they've had conversations with their medical providers and been able to reduce the amount of medication that they're requiring, or in many cases actually get off of that medication. So the anxiety, mood stabilizing, I don't feel quite as stressed and on edge is one of the most common things that I hear. But I have patients with MS that are taking this on a regular basis who have far fewer flare-ups, fibromyalgia patients, and people with chronic pain that are just doing really, really well. I have a couple of patients who are going through cancer treatment that feel like this is what's helping them in their recovery, because they're recovering so much faster than their doctors anticipated and even that they expected from themselves. So it kind of trickles into all different realms, the stories I get to hear on a daily basis. And it's, as you know, as a healthcare provider, it's just really rewarding to know that even something you suggest to someone can make a difference in their life that way.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And one of the things I want to go back to that you said for you was that it took a couple of months for you to kind of figure out the spot. And that's the thing that's maybe a little hard, that people need to be patient with when trying CBD, to not expect, we want everything quick. We want everything fast.
Of course we do. Yeah.
To, start low and go slow, and finding that sweet spot takes some time, and you don't want to type too quickly. So having said that, what is it that you recommend to people when they're starting CBD? How do you tell them to approach it, and how do you recommend that they work to titrate up their dose, and what kind of feedback should they look for?
Yeah, great question. So when I get people started with our product, the Green Compass, there's a 500 milligram bottle. And so I have them start usually with just like a quarter of a dropper in the morning for a couple of days. If they notice nothing, that's normal. Go ahead and do a quarter of a dropper twice a day, because there's questions about how much should I dose? Do I do it once a day or twice a day? Or there's no hard and fast answer for that. And so it can get a little bit tricky, but I have them at least start that way. And then after a quarter drop twice a day, kind of morning and evening, if they don't notice anything, then I have them bump to a half morning and evening. At some point, as we slowly increase that, and I usually do 3 or 4 days, give it 3 or 4 days like that before you make a decision, and then slowly go up. And most people, by the time they get to about 3/4 of a dropper or 1 dropper, start to notice something change. They start to notice some sort of difference. Now, some people can microdose and literally take a couple of drops and notice a difference. In my opinion, I think those people their system is really off balance, and it doesn't take much for them to notice some sort of improvement, because there's such a wide gap from where they are and where they should be. And so while I don't usually start people microdosing, because it's not the majority of people who respond to that, the things to look for is if you feel worse, if you feel kind of like that just icky headachy, muscle aches, it probably means you've taken too much and backed down. People aren't going to technically get worse from CBD. It's not going to cause a health issue, but it can also tip the scales too far the other direction. And so if they notice some of their chronic things actually start to get worse, it's not that CBD isn't right for them. It's that they need a really, really low dose to have the most effectiveness. Now, that being said, we have up to a 2,500 milliliter bottle. And this is going to be people who are in a lot of pain, major injuries, major health concerns. But I still never start them there. They might be the people who do well at the microdose, and you never want to go too far too fast. I would say the majority of my clients end up buying a 750 bottle once they've found kind of where they're feeling good, and usually do somewhere between a half or a full dropper once, sometimes twice a day. Some people feel really laser focused when they take it in the morning. Some people start to feel tired and like they can calm down. Maybe those people should take it in the evening, but it's all about kind of testing with it. Like you said, and we know this, start low, go slow. But at a certain point, just like my tipping point, you're like, oh, here I am. And I haven't gone beyond that. Actually, I probably have dosed too much on a couple of days, and I realized it because I kind of had that, I'm got a little headachy today. What could it have been? And you want to know why that was? I dosed too much when they switched to the cinnamon. Have you tried the cinnamon CBD?
Not yet. I've got the other flavor.
I enjoyed it so much, I probably took too many doses in a day. So anyway, the cinnamon is fantastic. But I know that's what it was. I was like, oh, it's just sitting on the counter. I'll have some more. Yeah. Good lesson, Stacy. More is not better. But I think it's just paying attention to your body. What you notice improve might not be what you expected, like my knee thing for me, not what I expected. But I was just paying close attention to my body and being aware of what I was noticing that got different. And when you get to that point where you're like, oh, this makes sense. I'm feeling this. I'm noticing this. Level off for a bit. If you maintain feeling that way, you don't need to continue to increase your dose. In fact, you might over time be able to do less and less as that holds in your system, as your body knows how to respond to the CBD a little bit better. So start low, go slow. And we have, the company offers these little sample bottles. I never use them because so many times a person will think that means they should notice it working with that sample. Our company is fantastic, and you can take an entire month's, they call it a month's worth because the average person will take 1 dropper a day, and there's 30 droppers in the bottle. But the average person will go through that in about a month. But they will offer like a full money back guarantee if you don't like it. Now you need to probably try it longer if you're not noticing a difference, because like an omega-3, it's working whether you think it is or not. But that's what I tell people to do if you want to test it out is truly be consistent and take it for a minimum of 30 days, probably 90 realistically, before you can expect to feel something different.
Yeah, and like you said, if you're kind of hitting past your sweet spot, some things to watch for. You mentioned headaches. Some people may notice worsening of their symptoms and then think, oh, it's not working anymore. So they just need to back down. Do you have anybody that, I know from what I've been learning that being consistent is key, but are there places where you maybe have a person take intermittent breaks, or that are just taking it for a specific condition on an as needed basis? Now, I don't think that's going to work with people that may be wanting it for things like MS or autoimmune or fibromyalgia, things like that. But there may be instances where there's a condition where they don't need to be taking it every day and maybe only take it on an as needed basis.
Sure. So from the research I've done, I've never recommended someone take it intermittently, only because I know that there are benefits whether they're noticing them or not. That being said, I do have a lot of people who remember to take it when their symptoms are bad. And so they're not consistent, not intentionally, but when they do take it, they do notice a change. And the most common things for this are going to be that fibromyalgia pain, because some people are taking a lot of supplements, or unfortunately in other cases, a lot of medications, and they're like, don't want to take one more thing. And for whatever reason, because this seems like an extra, it kind of falls to the wayside. And so in those cases, some of those people will take it when they remember or when their symptoms are bad enough that they're willing to do the extra step. And even they will notice an improvement. The other category of people who will do that are my busy business people. When it comes to focus and attention, they're like, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my desk today. I need to get it all done. I should remember to take my CBD. And they tend to notice an improvement taking it intermittently like that as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of individual on that. But I do think the consistency is kind of key. Like you said, we have an endocannabinoid system. It hits on so many of our system. I think of it as a super highway to all of our systems. And I think, more of that we're going to find out in the research as well. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple of years when it comes to this research, because we know that there is a drug that contains CBD, which means the pharmaceutical companies are already onto something when it comes to the benefits. But we also know plants left in their natural form are much better than any company that's going to patent them, which means they've chemically altered them. So just knowing that though there has been a patent on a pharmaceutical means there's a lot more information that should be coming when it comes to the benefits of CBD.
And do you find, because I came across this as well, as far as duration of action, when you take a dose, how long that's going to, what's the onset of action and the duration of action? I've read things from, depending on if it's in an oil or, tincture, anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes up to 90 minutes and peaking in 90 minutes to 3 hours. Have you seen anything on that?
I really haven't. And I haven't done a bunch of research into that aspect of it specifically. And I think part of that for me is it's so personalized that no matter what the research says, it's all in how your body metabolizes things. We know that what CBD does specifically is slows down the breakdown of our endocannabinoids. So we produce cannabinoids. In fact, one of the things that made me really comfortable taking CBD, even while nursing my daughter, was the fact that what babies respond to when they're nursing that makes them happy or sleepy are the endocannabinoids that they're getting from us. So I was like, oh, that's fascinating, because I went from, I'm not going to try this until I'm done nursing, to, oh my goodness, this could probably be a huge benefit to my child as well. And so I think once people find that sweet spot, it's more likely that they'll notice it working a little bit faster. But I also think it makes a difference in, are they eating well? Is their endocannabinoid system responsive? How many CB receptors is their body producing and emitting to interact with the CBD? And so I think it's just so personalized that there's not necessarily going to be any algorithm or mathematic equation we can put to that duration or that, initiation of noticing the symptoms change.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, lifestyle factors are huge, and there are ways we can enhance our endocannabinoid system through healthy lifestyle practices. And I talked about that a little bit last night in part one. And you also mentioned with your daughter and nursing. So, one of the questions people have is this safe to use in children?
No research.
Yeah.
There's no research. And so for me, it comes back to, what do I understand about the human physiology? What do I understand about a clean, healthy CBD? Because I certainly wouldn't just try anything. And then it just always, no matter what decision a person makes, do the potential benefits outweigh the potential risks? And that's always just a very, very personal question. I think, especially for a pregnancy or for a nursing mom, that question gets a little bit more delicate. And so because we don't have any scientific basis to say, 100% safe, no negative side effects, that just doesn't exist because we haven't done the research. Not because it's not true, but because we just haven't done the research to prove it. And I don't know any moms signing up for to be a test subject for that. I know I wouldn't. But But for me, it came to, I understand how my body works. I understand and I trust the CBD that I'm using, and I'm not doing such a huge dosage that could be building up in her system, or that could be causing her scale to tip in the other direction. So, and I monitored her. I noticed nothing, quite frankly, with her. I noticed no changes. I was trying to pay attention. Does she seem calmer? Does she seem like she's sleeping better? And she's a healthy, happy, well-adjusted baby to begin with. So I really just didn't notice much change for her at all.
Right, right. So that's, important, with any of these things, we don't have research, and, we probably should just put out that disclaimer here too, that, we are not saying that this is going to cure or treat anything. We're just talking about experiences, some of the research that's coming out. It's still an evolving area, and certainly the decisions anybody makes is their own. And it's a very, very individualized thing for people to try. Now, you're a chiropractor by training, and I would like to know, because one of the other things I came across was potential synergistic benefit with certain other healing modalities and treatments. One of them, of course, being chiropractic. So would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, so there are several things that we do that boost our endocannabinoid system, and you talked about a lot of them last night. Taking an omega-3, getting good exercise, cryotherapy. So my husband is crazy. He takes a cold shower every morning. I am not interested in trying out that therapy. There are other ways I'll boost my endocannabinoids. Healthy coffee. We know that there are superfoods, fruits and vegetables that have phytocannabinoids in them that boost our body's ability to produce our own endocannabinoids. But when I'm doing anything, it always has to come back to, does it align with my chiropractic beliefs and practice and philosophy and understanding? And I finally found some research that showed chiropractic adjustments or osteopathic spinal manipulation is known to increase endocannabinoid production in our bodies. So for me, I'm like, oh, there's my tie-in. Now it makes sense. I have multiple businesses, and some of them I keep very separate from my chiropractic business because it dilutes the message of what I'm doing. CBD, I really feel like, is one of those things that I'm happy to have available to my patients here in my office. I have some on my shelf because it aligns with that approach for me. To me, it's like recommending an omega-3 and a probiotic. Like, these are things your system will respond positively to when taken properly. And so that chiropractic piece for me was really, really fun. We know chiropractic boosts the immune system. We know it boosts white cell count. I just didn't know that. Well, quite frankly, I wasn't taught in chiropractic school that we even had an endocannabinoid system. So I didn't know that the adjustment boosted that until I knew to do some research.
Yeah. So on that note, that's very complementary to that. So I also want to kind of segue into routes of administration with CBD. So we know that the extracts are meant to be taken sublingually under the tongue. But I've also, and I mentioned it last night because I had somebody ask me about it. And I don't know if you've had any experience with this, of people putting the extract in their belly button. Have you had that experience?
Yep.
Can you tell me about that?
You know what? I've just read about it in one of the forums. Somebody asked about that, but it's a well-known way to absorb products. So it's really not that different than sublingual, other than the fact that it's just not typically heard of. I've also heard of it used internally, especially for like menstrual cramps and those types of things. Now, not something that I've had personal clients use, but I've had just heard and read stories of people using it that way and getting some tremendous results. Again, it's kind of like when you use the topical products, right? If you use the topical product on your neck and shoulders, which I use on my clients in the office, they come in with headaches and we, rub a little bit through neck and shoulders, and it makes a big difference for them. It's going to have a local mechanism of action rather than a systemic mechanism of action. I think it does the same thing in those circumstances because that's where it's going to get absorbed and recognized by the body first. So interesting enough, but I have read stories of people noticing great results with it that way. I don't know why I would do it that, like in my belly button over my mouth.
The only thing I
Maybe
could
not
think
the
of,
cinnamon
somebody
for
could
that.
stand the taste maybe or something. But I mean, with Green Compass, they have some
It
nice
tastes
flavor.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note too that the flavoring for Green Compass is organic essential oils. That's it.
Right.
Organic mint or citrus or the cinnamon, which, like I said, be careful with.
Yeah. Because
Enjoyable.
it's tasty. It's a popular product, that's for sure.
Uh-huh. They meant for it to be just a temporary, like seasonal type thing for the
Right.
holidays, but they sold out so fast. They're like, okay, we hear you. We'll keep it permanently on the product list.
Yeah,
So.
which is great.
Mhm.
Another method of administration, and I have not heard of anybody doing this, but I kind of think, well, why couldn't you maybe do it that way? You know how people use essential oils and diffusers.
Mhm.
Um, if you could put a drop in a diffuser, just like an essential oil, because
Mhm.
a couple of the best routes of administration are inhalation and sublingually.
Mhm.
Had anybody try that route at all?
No, I haven't. We know that, so like when it comes to an essential oil, the essential oil they say that is most similar to CBD is copaiba. And so a lot of people will use copaiba and report that they're
Okay.
getting very similar side effects or I guess, health benefits. But I haven't actually heard of them using the CBD. I don't know that it's in the right format for that.
Yeah, that's what I
Simply
was
because
kind of.
I don't know how well the CBD would diffuse out of, um, because it's not water soluble for a reason. I don't know
Mhm.
how well that would actually disperse from a diffuser. Funny story, I had this giant water like purifier in my apartment several years ago, and I had a new puppy and I wanted to get rid of that new puppy smell. And so I put a few drops of essential oil in this diffuser, huge like
Oh,
humidifier diffuser.
oh,
Uh, the whole thing, like gallons of water, broke on my floor, and I was like, "Oh, I guess there are some things you should not mix with water." And in that case, just a word to the wise: don't put essential oils in a large humidifier.
yeah,
But I feel like it probably just wouldn't have the same effect. But that's a guess that's not based on any information. I just don't. I think that it could be beneficial, but probably in a different format,
yeah,
not
yeah.
in the not in a high content fat oil.
Hmm. Yeah. Another thing that I had come across when looking at some of the research and stuff, who I mentioned last night was Dr. Philip Blair. He was interviewed by Dr. Jay Davidson, who's also a chiropractor, very well known, I think, at this point, chiropractor. And they were looking at the potential antibiotic effect of CBD on certain pathogens, and even spirochetes like Lyme. They were looking
Mm-hmm.
at bacteria, staph, and strep, which was very interesting. Have you seen any of your patients maybe use it as a natural antibacterial
Like an
or?
antibacterial. I have had a couple of Lyme's patients that
Mhm.
have used it and noticed significant reduction in their symptoms.
Wow.
Um, I like I didn't do research on that, or I didn't track that very
Mhm.
specifically or analytically to be able to do any publishing with it. But from an anecdotal perspective, I have, especially Lyme's, because Lyme's is such a hard.
Very
Ugh,
hard.
it's awful. Yeah, it's an awful one. So from that perspective, yes, I quite honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you from like an antibacterial, only because I almost always recommend a probiotic, which helps to counterbalance that. So I wouldn't be able to separate what are they experiencing from the
Mhm.
probiotic compared to the CBD, because there's kind of this hierarchy for me of things a person should be doing.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure on that one.
Well, that's really great to hear on the Lyme, because I
Hmm.
was wondering about that. I do have some Lyme patients as well, and it's just a very, very challenging scenario. Another one that I think you kind of were alluding to very early on, are there some people that maybe do better with the THC in it and those that don't do well with the THC in it? I know I have a few patients with POTS, and wondering that in their case. But what have you seen?
So from what I've researched, it's the effectiveness is always enhanced when it's the full flower, the whole plant. So it includes the THC. In the United States, the THC content for any legal CBD has to be below 0.3%. So it's very minimal. You could take a whole bottle and not have the intoxicating effect that people associate with THC. So they're not going to have that, this product is going to control my behavior or is going to overtake my common sense or whatever it might be. The hemp plant is very different than the marijuana plant. Two completely different species. And so I think that's important for people to know. The only time I'm recommending the THC free is, for example, a nursing mom who's just not sure. I would never press her to do something outside of the comfort zone. But if she's really looking for that health benefit and doesn't know what else to try, then I would, encourage her, give the isolate a try, because we know that the CBD from research, CBD on its own does have potential health benefits for us. The other people who can't use the THC, like over-the-road truck drivers, if they get drug tested, cannot have any in their system. And even with the legal limit in a CBD oil, if you have blood testing done, it can show up. And no surprise. One of my MS patients actually had some blood work done after starting, and she'd probably been on our product for a couple of months. And she called and let me know. She goes, "Oh, hey, I just wanted you to know it did show up in my blood test." Now, she was totally fine with that. She expected it. It was not an issue. But she's like, "I just thought you'd like to know." And she was absolutely right. It's nice to know when those things are showing up. So if you're in an employee position where a drug test showing that in your system could get you in trouble, then obviously go with an isolate. However, it should show in your system that there's just the tiniest amount, which shouldn't, people automatically think it's marijuana and an illegal drug use, but we know better. It's just not commonplace yet. So I know federal government employees, I believe, can't have even CBD in their system. So they're one of the minority of people who you can't recommend it to, unfortunately, even though it's legal. Government, one of those weird things. I'm trying to think if there's police officers, firefighters, those type of people just have to know what their regulations are for their work expectations. So, but those are really the only time I recommend the THC free is when I know there's a potential it showing up in their lab work and that being a problem for them.
Okay, great. I do want to open it up for questions before our time kind of runs out. So if anybody has any questions, I'd like you to type those in the chat box. Now, one of the questions we did have come up last night that I really didn't have an answer to, I did contact the company to get an answer on that, and that had to do with preferred customer appreciation. What do you call it?
The preferred pricing or
preferred pricing, yeah. So, because people can save 20% if they do that. So one of the question was, do I have to be on auto ship every month to get that preferred pricing from Green Compass? And what they told me was that no, as long as you're on an auto, whether it's every month or every other month, what you won't get if you don't do 3 consecutive months of auto ship is the 3rd month you get free shipping. So if somebody was wanting to do their Green Compass CBD every other month, they still would benefit from the 20% off if they're auto. Yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to be on an auto ship. And the nice thing with the company is those can be modified anytime. I modify mine all the time. Add a few, we use the bath bombs at our house. I will oftentimes order the single pain patches just to have available in the office for my clients to try before going online and purchasing their own. I use the relieve or the reduced cream on patients in the office. So I'm constantly modifying my auto ship. And they are so good about that. The other nice thing about it is there's not a time commitment. Like if you do it for 3 months and for whatever reason just are bad about taking it and it's, clogging up your cupboards, then just put it on pause. The company is wonderful with that. And I know I do have several clients who are able to do a really low dose and don't need a bottle every month. And so they have the auto ship set for every other.
That's great. And I think that's really helpful to people because that is a nice benefit On the pricing. I mean, that's a huge, I feel, discount that they can take advantage of. That.
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned, go ahead. You're going to say something else there on that? No?
No. I think I was
Okay.
going to mention, I have a lot of people who keep modifying it because they keep adding more product. They're like, oh my goodness, I love the oil. Now I want to try the bath bombs. Now I want to try. My daughter loves the chapstick, like the lip balm. Every morning she's
Uh-huh.
like, Mama, where's my lip balm? She's 2 and she wants pockets in her pants so she can carry her lip balm. But the pet product, people oftentimes get started on it and then are like, oh my goodness, I wonder if my pet could benefit. So a lot of people change it because of the pet products too.
Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned, because somebody asked me last night about the bath bombs. So, and I think those can be very soothing and relaxing. Like people that have fibromyalgia, for example, with chronic pain, the bath bomb might be something worth trying as an additive benefit for them as well.
Oh, absolutely. I can't keep them on my shelf here. That's another reason I keep modifying my own auto ship I have to keep ordering more of those bath bombs because I sell them individually so people can just take them home and try them. And then when they come in next, they clean me out. So yeah, the bath bombs are phenomenal.
Yeah, and I did put up a link for if you want to look at Encompass. I also do offer it on my website, and I have a link there too at www.pathtohealthandhealing.com/products. That's another way to go and look for it as well. I also just want to mention there's a CBD Health Revolution going on right now with a lot of experts in the CBD. Just by happenstance, that's going on at this time that people can check well.
Yeah.
Looking to do that as well.
Yeah. Like I mentioned at the beginning, when I was looking for a company to use and to recommend, I first looked at my professional product lines. And when they just didn't meet my expectations, I had to go looking for a company. And I'm really thrilled with Green Compass because they are a CBD company. They're not another company who added CBD to their product line just to, join the revolution, essentially.
Right.
The company started out as organic sweet potato farmers, and their son was having a lot of issues, and they were advised to try CBD. So they did, and he noticed some improvement. But they're like, "There's some ingredients in here we're not real thrilled with. Why don't we just take a small portion of our farm and grow our own hemp?" Well, that small portion of the farm has now become multiple organic farms because the results they got for their son were enhanced. They started talking about that with friends and family who wanted to try it, and that's where you get a company like Green Compass. It's all word of mouth. There's no big advertising dollars. It's built on reputation. It's built on results, and it's built on word of mouth. And I love that about the company. But because they're a small company, you can ask questions. And I've been on the phone with the company owners. I've been on the phone with the company's attorneys because when I was producing my own information and webinars, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't saying anything outside. I can figure out for me what I can say professionally, but I wanted to make sure that the company was okay with me putting out these webinars as well. And so the attorneys just called me and said, "Hey, this is great. We'd actually love you to train our own advocates." And so they're all about advocate education. And it is a great business opportunity, especially if you have a team of people that you're working with that are well educated, that can answer the hard questions and not just feed you a bunch of information and leave you on your own and hope you can figure it out. And so I think that's one of the beautiful things you've even got to experience is that you can call them, you can contact them, they'll get back in touch with you, they'll make sure your questions are answered. And I appreciate that immensely about the company. So it's when it comes from a business perspective, they say it's a $500 million business that will be a good $2 billion by 2024. And so if a person is excited about CBD, if they want to be part of a team that's going to take good care of them and help them be successful, but also do it the right way when taking care of your clients, I can't think of a better company with any health product, quite frankly, than what Green Compass has done for us and has done for my family. Just in the sense that any question I've ever had has been adequately answered in great time. And they're also there for anybody, even just my clients, people who are purchasing product. You don't have to be part of the company to get that response. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. And I think, like you said, it's a growing industry, and to have peace of mind of a company that is very reputable, has a lot of attention to detail and quality is really, really important as well. And so that gives me peace of mind too, as far as what I can recommend to my patients. And what maybe they are trying or their family's trying, and they're not going down to the gas station to buy it,
Every day I go to get my daughter at daycare, and that gas station is on the corner across the street. I want to go in there and say something to them, but I don't dare.
Yeah. Right. Well, we do have a question from Cindy. She says, my son is a federal employee and has chronic back pain. Will the creams or bath bombs absorb into the system and show up on a blood test?
They can.
Yeah.
They can. Yeah. It's it won't be all the time. Like, there are some people who can use bath bombs. I'm not so sure. I don't know that those would show up. I also don't know that if he's got chronic pain, that's going to be enough to get him a result. So I'd hate for you to also spend money on something that I don't expect to get the result that you're intending. But the creams, yes, they can. They're meant to absorb into your system. And so should he test at a time where he's been using it more, it can. It's unfortunate. What needs to happen is that law needs to change, and we need to realize that this is a healthy product that our bodies know how to respond to. In my mind, it takes huge amount of time for paradigm shifts, but give it 10 years and we'll think about it like a probiotic or omega-3. Like, of course you should be taking that. Why wouldn't you? But unfortunately, even though the government has told us it's safe and effective, go ahead, they can't let their own employees use it. So unfortunately, no.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And hopefully that will change, like you said, in time, and a lot of the confusion around things as well. And thank you, Cindy, for that question. I think, there's other people that likely have that question as well.
I wish I had a different answer.
Yeah. So, but, certainly the confusion, as I mentioned last night, it's still a work in progress. One state that I will not mention that I'm intimately know about is still very state law and the federal law, and trying to get that sorted out. And hopefully they will get that sorted out in the next year or two, hopefully sooner. Because there's people that, in that particular situation had been on it from local mom and pops, and now the local mom and pops are under scrutiny, and it's not available to them. So certainly I hope that Green Compass is an option for them, particularly if they're listening to this, that is an option for them, that they don't have to suffer if they found that CBD was helping them, and this is certainly another option for them.
Well, and the nice thing with Green Compass, there's a lot of companies, even direct sales CBD companies, who launched a couple years ago, and they did that before the Farm Bill passed, which was in February just of this last year. Green Compass strategically waited to launch as a company or sell any products until they knew that it was federally legal in all 50 states. And I appreciate that about a company too, that puts let's do things the right way and in the right order ahead of potential profits. I mean, well, to me, money is just an exchange of value. Like, there's always got to be an equal exchange of value. They didn't put those profits in front of making sure that their advocates were protected, making sure that their clients were protected, and that wherever they were shipping, it was completely legal. So anyone in any 50 state can certainly order this, because there's no restrictions when it comes to that. And I think that those confusing federal versus state laws will eventually get cleared up. It's just a matter of bookkeeping, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. It's just kind of has to get caught up with that. But yeah, I think, as you said, they're of the highest caliber of a company, and they really um, put a lot of attention to detail and want to make sure that they're offering a high quality product. It's their name on, their reputation as a family. It's
It's
family.
their livelihood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a family owned and run business. And I know the owner of the business, she started it too because she was having some postpartum depression, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. They started it because of their son. But at the same time, once they noticed the benefits for their son, she started taking the product, I believe it as well. I believe that was the order of things. So yeah,
Okay.
everybody can benefit. And thankfully they had some really good personal testimonials that inspired them to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you guys, if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Staci Blume, be sure and visit her website, everydayliferefined.com. There's a link there. If you'd like to try Green Compass CBD, you can hit the button for that, or you can just go to my website at pathtohealthandhealing.com and click on the store tab, and you'll find an image of the product there that you can click on as well. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me at pathtohealthandhealing@gmail.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions as well. And Dr. Blumey, I can't thank you enough for
Oh,
being on with
wonderful.
us today. You're a wealth of information, and I appreciate you taking the time to do all the legwork and the research on this. I then did not have to do because you
So
had
nobody else has to do it. Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
that really helped me immensely, and I was able to give you some different companies I had looked at, and we were able to find out where the missing pieces were with some of those companies
Yeah,
as well. So that was very, very helpful, and I greatly appreciate it.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me with you today.
Yep. Thank you. And everybody have a great day. All right.
Be
Bye.
well.